and welcome to this, the first episode of the Superfreakmedia podcast, No Ghouls Allowed. So, Casper, you can off. It's because he's a ghoul. You get it? Yeah. I liked it.
So we're definitely bleeping, yeah?
Yeah. Alright. Anyway, today's topics up for discussion are the films that got us into horror and our horror movies overlooked at the awards. Here with me today we've got Liam Banks, our very own director.
Hello.
We've got our very own final girl, Charlie Clark.
Hello.
And sitting in the corner complaining about bulbs, it's Richard Parker.
Oh, yes.
You gave that no context.
No. It is a lamp. We are just throwing that out there.
Why is it a lamp?
It's the technical term. It's a lamp. Everyone else refers to it as a bulb and it drives me up the wall.
It's because it's a bulb.
Every shoot.
Yeah, every shoot. Stop snapping.
You do realise we do it just
Start
to piss
snapping
you off
that.
now.
It works, believe me. I hate it.
Someone told me at some point it was a luminaire.
No, the luminaire is what it goes in.
Isn't that?
That sounds kind of flashy,
The
though. I
thing
think I
from
like
Beauty
that.
and the
No, that's Lumiere.
That's Lumiere.
There's a
It sounds
difference.
the same to me.
The dude with the three little things.
Yeah.
French.
Yeah.
Ah, mon cher, I am a lamp or a thing.
No, he's a
I'm a bulb.
He's a candelabra. There's, you know.
Alright, Rich.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, technician.
Mic drop.
Salt.
Do you think by the end of this
Straight
people
off
just
the
think we
bat.
just hate each other?
Oh, God.
I think so.
These things are set out of love.
So, as it's the first episode, I thought it'd be cool if we all introduced ourselves. Liam, do you want to kick us off? You are the director man.
Okay, cool. So I'm Liam. I created Superfreakmedia back in 2009. We just recently celebrated 10 years. I primarily direct. I have a huge passion for horror. That's what I love to do, and I've kind of picked up this group of crazy people along the way, and we continue to create stuff together, which is pretty special. So, yeah. That's me.
Lovely. Charlie, do you want to go next?
So I am Charlie, and I am an actress. I started off doing a lot of musical theatre. That's what I did when I graduated from drama school, and then slowly made the move into film, and then picked up Liam at some point, and then the rest of the Superfreakmedia family kind of shortly followed. But primarily acting, but also do some assistant directing and some assistant producing every now and again. But yeah, big fan of horror. I think that's kind of what made me kind of transition from doing theatre into film, was my love of horror. So that's me.
Cool. Jodie P.
Okay. I'm Rich. I kind of come at things from a little bit of a different standpoint. I'm a technician in my day job, so a lot of that kind of translates into what I do on set. Bit of camera assisting, bit of grip, bit of gaffer work, or generally if you need someone to just gremlin in the corner and hold a light or waft some smoke, that's me.
Classic.
Pretty much everything.
Classic Parker. And I'm Jono, so I'm the DOP, so I'm director of photography, so I do a lot of that work for Superfreakmedia. I've been working with about 5 years, I think we worked it out, was the copywriter. So that was 5 years ago, I think yesterday, that we wrapped on that, which is ridiculous. I also do a bit of acting work, and apparently I'm a podcast presenter as well, which is very cool.
We'll see how this goes.
Brilliant, already. Richard,
yes.
Favourite horror movie, go.
Favourite horror movie, probably It Follows.
Oh, good choice, yeah.
Charlie Clark.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
The original Nightmare.
The original, not that you can bleep this out. Show that was the remake.
Cool.
It should just be a continuous bleep.
It's the entire podcast.
Charlie's flatlined. Mine would be Halloween, of course, again, the original.
Cool.
Can't beat it for me.
Cool.
No doubt.
No doubt. Thing is, Richard stressed me out there because he said It Follows, and that is actually my favourite horror film, so I'm going to sound like I'm just the little kid at the back of class going, yeah, the same as him.
Yep.
Brilliant.
You're welcome.
Never seen a film that's made me feel that uncomfortable.
Yeah,
at cinema.
that was what got me.
I think that's probably the best film I've ever seen, like at a cinema, horror-wise.
I'm a big fan of jump scares, but I think something about that just made me feel not really scared, but just really on edge throughout the entire thing.
I'm going to say the really unpopular opinion here, but I'm not the biggest fan.
I know,
and you're all going to hate me, but I think it is one of those very divisive films, and I think I need to have another watch of it. But I was left the cinema very underwhelmed by it.
See, the thing is, I watched it at the cinema and I had the same reaction to Richard and Liam, which was like, it creeped me out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't jumpy. There was a few moments, like, you know, the guy looming through the door and things like that. But
yeah, it wasn't really that scary, though, traditionally.
No, but it got to me.
It was the fact that you were constantly looking behind the characters.
Yeah.
You were all... It made you look around and actually really see the whole frame as opposed to just focusing on what they wanted you to focus on.
That's the thing.
You were constantly thinking of something.
That's something I think that it didn't happen to me in the cinemas like since Paranormal Activity, the first one. That was looking around the frame and that ruined me. And then with It Follows, it was a similar sort of thing.
I think, though, with It Follows, the thing that I struggled with was actually liking the characters. Like, I wasn't rooting for any of them. I didn't really...
See, I thought that they were really
care
kind
if
of
they
identifiable.
survived.
Like, they were teenagers. I didn't think that they were that clean. I think what I have a problem with... I know that sounds really weird, but I have a problem with films these days, particularly the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. They're all like...
I was going to say, don't come from my original.
They're all like super pretty. They've all got cars, like pretty much their own houses. Everything's sorted for them. These guys obviously have parental issues. I don't think any of them washed. They were all having sex with each other. It to me, that was kind of how it felt to kind of grow up. It was messy.
You never
more
watched.
gritty.
What, not washing?
But I wash, just to put that out there. But I felt it was quite realistic.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it needs another watch for me, but I wasn't...
There was something about that film that, like, the next day after watching it, because I think I watched it for the first time with you, Jono.
Yeah, I took it around your house, didn't I?
Yeah, and I just went about my day. I don't know if I went into town or something the next day, and I just... Like, seeing somebody random walking towards me on the same side of the road all of a sudden was not okay.
Yeah, it's the everyday, like, terrifying.
Yeah.
I think the music as well is the major thing that I think really got me, because it was so loud and so intense, but it wasn't horror music. I'm sure Disaster Piece, the guy, make like game music, like primarily. So
I think he did.
That was a departure
I
for
can
him
imagine,
to
actually.
do horror music. But you can tell, but it works so well. Like it's I thought it was spot on.
I think it's interesting that Charlie didn't click with Charlie because it didn't click with Haley either. When we went to see it at the cinema.
Maybe it's a girl thing.
But
A couple of people at work seemed to hate it. Like, I recommended it to them, and they came back and they were like, it was crap.
I think it's because they're
didn't like
expecting
it.
maybe The Conjuring. I think people like expect horror films to be a certain thing nowadays, like particularly paranormal things. They expect jump scares, and that really doesn't have them.
No, there's very few.
It's terrifying in a different
I will
way.
give it the fact that it's very unique. It's very different as
Timeless
a film
as well. You don't know what time it's set.
Yeah,
Like there's no indication.
yeah. I don't know. It was just one of them that didn't really register with me. As I didn't have the same kind of wow reaction that you guys did, which I don't know why. Just one of them things.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
First topic.
That was a nice debate.
That was good.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I was like, I'm going to be a bitch now and hate on everyone's favourite films.
No, but that's the thing. You can hate on it, and it's an opinion, isn't
At the
it?
end of the day,
Yeah.
it's all subjective.
Sorry, I'm just actually turning my phone.
Terrible. It's
Off.
professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was
Ever
vibrating.
the
Sorry.
professional.
So first topic, the films that got us into horror. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a horror film. It's just the one that sort of sparked that interest and made you think, you know what, horror films are pretty cool. So, I mean, I don't know how to start this off. I don't know who wants to go
Why don't you
first.
start?
Yeah, I think you should
Myself.
But
Okay.
it depends if you're going to say the same thing as me.
We've already had that.
That's it. But the thing is, if I say it first this time, it looks like you're copying me,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that's fine.
That's true.
So I've got 1.5.
I think you should say your half and then I'll say the one. No, it's fine.
No,
Go for it,
I'm gonna go all in. So I guess the kind of the in thing for me to say would be like, you know, when I was a kid, I was like, you know, 6 or 7 or maybe 10 years old, and I'd go and get like an old video or a DVD or something, put it on and watch it in the bedroom without
We know it was
parents
VHS
noticing.
when you were that
It was
age.
100%
Don't-
VHS.
Yeah, don't
it was.
pretend DVDs.
Betamax.
Why? Sorry, you've got VHS.
I didn't have DVDs when I was
Yeah,
that
exactly.
age.
So why show more hating
so-
on the elders in the room?
I used to go and get the reel from the local cinema.
The cave painting.
Yeah, cool. Too far, guys. Too far. But I didn't really get into horror until I was probably about 15, which is like when this film came out. So I remember I watched it with my mum. We were watching it on TV with advert breaks, which was filth because it meant that I didn't want to go to the toilet. And it wasn't like I could pause it. It was like the adverts would come on and I was like, I need a wee, but this...
There was just a build-up of fluids.
There was a lot of fluids. Because it terrified me to the point where I was like, I'm just going to hold this in. I'm not going in that hallway, it's dark. Right?
I'm really trying to guess.
I think I know what
the
this
thing
is.
is, it's the others.
Yeah.
Right? And...
Not what I was expecting.
No. Have you all seen the others?
I actually haven't. I think I've seen bits of it, but I've not seen it all the way through.
So
Cool.
good.
Thing is, it's... Looking back at the others, it's slow. It's very sort of deliberate.
Yeah.
It's dripping with atmosphere. Like the house is always shrouded in fog.
Dripping
With something.
For goodness sake.
So the house was shrouded in fog. They were cut off. There was a house. It was in Jersey, so it was already they were all isolated. And you look at it and you're thinking, this is a horror film, you know. And it was. But looking back, I watched it yesterday, and it was not a lot happens, But it does it in such a way that draws you in. I think Mark Kermode describes modern horror films as quiet, quiet, bang.
Yeah.
And this was very much quiet. Oh. Quiet.
Yeah.
Which ruined but that's the thing, nothing needed to jump out at you, nothing needed. There's an awesome scene in there which reminded me of Best Friends Forever, where with the sheets and Nicole Kidman's character, she walks into a room thinking that there's a person or an intruder has gone in there, and everything is covered in white sheets and it's brightly lit. But I even yesterday, I was back. I was like that 15-year-old holding his wee in. Like, it was awful. But I don't know what it is about it. It's not...
I think what's great about it, like you said with the daylight thing, is the fact that daylight is also the source of the terror for some of the characters as well.
That's it, because all the kids are photosensitive, aren't they?
Yeah, everything obviously in horror films, and particularly even stuff with the stuff that we make, a lot of it's in the dark. And don't get it, we're aware, guys, these people make dumb decisions and they've always got torches and they're always in freaking creepy houses in the stuff that we do. But I think what was refreshing about that is the fact that the daylight was such a scary thing.
Like the daylight was the villain, wasn't it?
Be scary in like the traditional sense.
That was it. It was the way it sort of built up the tension, like from the start. You got like the new workers coming to the house, and they were looking back very stereotypical. It was the old woman, the gardener that doesn't stay much but is about 80, the mute girl. It's all looking back. You think, oh, that's a bit cliche, but it all just works.
Yeah,
and there are a few sort of moments that kind of. There's a few music cues that make things very obvious, and there's like some looks that the workers give each other where you think, knowing the ending, oh man, that gives it away. But I'm pretty sure when I was 15 I didn't get that. I'm not going to say the twist because it's not fair.
I'd be interested to see if I was to watch it tomorrow now, whether I can actually get that.
I don't know. I feel like
is based off that.
It's similar in terms of how Sixth Sense is. People kind of know what's going
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Can we just digress to Sixth Sense for a second? So I have never seen it, and now I know the twist. I feel like it's one of those films that I never have to watch.
Worth watching.
Because
the motel one, isn't it?
The what?
Is it the one set in the motel?
No, that's
it's Bruce Willis and...
Identity. Yeah. No,
Oh,
sorry.
that's
I do,
creepy
but I
film.
do know the twist from Sixth Sense. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's another one that's got a really good, obviously, twist in it that you see. Once you know the twist,
Well,
you
that's
see
it.
it
I
coming.
think repeat viewing is what makes it kind of special when you do watch it, and then you're like, oh,
You
wow,
pick up on
that's
things.
what's going on.
That's why
then
that
the next
happens.
time you watch it,
I
you're
kind
like,
of wish that I
there's so
didn't
many
know the
in
twist
jokes
in Sixth Sense, though,
kind of
because I'm never going to get to experience it watching it, not knowing the twist.
I don't know.
I feel
don't
like
think it's the end of the world.
I think Lonely Island are to blame for that one. I think they told me what happened at the end of that film in one of their songs. So
When Bruce Willis realises that it's his sledge all along. I got it.
Excellent.
I got it. But the thing is, with the others, there's like spread out. I think it's about an hour and 45 minutes long, and then there are about 3 scenes in it that are actually scary. There's one bit of imagery in there with she thinks she's walking in on a little girl playing with a puppet.
It's iconic though, isn't
There's
it?
that withered hand.
Yeah.
It's just
simple things
filth.
like that. Yeah.
And the thing is, in a modern horror film, you've got to think like the other's it's 18 years old. It's not new.
It owes a lot though to, I think, horror from the 70s.
100%. Like candlelight,
the seance
shadows.
scene particularly is very much like the seance scene in The Changeling. Like 100%. It's near spot on. And I always love me a blind woman and a Ouija board. So, I was happy, but yeah.
Yeah, looking back, it's refreshing that there's moments there where you've seen the creepy thing and then you're expecting it then to jump out at you and give you a jump, but it never does, because it doesn't need to. It's already unnerved you enough. It doesn't need like the cheap scare afterwards. And also, I forgot totally that Christopher Eccleston was in it. He turns up, and Keith Allen's in it as well for like 2 minutes.
Yes. Well, I think that's probably why I enjoyed it a lot more than most horror films, is because it felt homegrown. There was a lot of British talent in there. Obviously, I know there's Nicole Kidman as like the lead, but it feels like, I don't know, like a country estate somewhere here. Like I could personally see it happening. Yeah. And obviously we learned about the war and everything in history class and things like that. So you're kind of aware that these things were happening in like the countryside and stuff. So that was a really unique setting, I think, for a horror movie.
What's the matter? Where is my daughter? What have you done with my daughter? Are you mad? I am your daughter. No! You're not my daughter! No! You're not my daughter! No! No!
Pop quiz. Who executive produced it?
Oh.
I'm a big fan. I'll just throw that one out there. It's going to be one of two people.
Nicolas Cage.
The other one.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Of course he would, because he was with Nicole Kidman, wasn't he?
And divorced in 2001 when the film came out, so just saying.
But, I mean, touching upon that, one of the things I was going to say is the fact that they got Nicole Kidman in a film like that, I think is great. And I know this might link into something that we're talking about further on, but I know that did kind of well in terms of nominations for awards.
She got nominated for a BAFTA, did she? Or was the film nominated?
I don't even know if there was an Academy Award nomination in there somewhere. I'm positive there was. Like, we need to check that, and then the people at home could be like, no!
Bear with me, I'll Google.
But I think that's... Obviously, you don't hear about horrors really getting those kind of nods, but I think it requires maybe an actress or an actor of that calibre to do a role like that. But I think it's because it wasn't a straight up horror movie. Yeah. Because it wasn't. It was just an exercise in tension and
it was.
Creepiness
I think
and storytelling.
That's the thing. It's actually more of it's quite a sad story. It's a ghost story. It's a sad family story when you think about it. Yeah. It's quite tragic.
Having never seen it, I kind of get sort of thrillery vibes from it in a way, which I think is in a way sort of some of the horror films that are out there, things like It Follows and Get Out and stuff like that, where that actually it is probably leaning more towards thriller, but they seem to do really well with that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
It was nominated for Golden Globes for Nicole Kidman, and the screenplay and Nicole Kidman were nominated for BAFTAs, but no Oscars. Nothing.
Did she win?
No.
I have found that though, like, obviously we're going to touch on it later, but like with the whole kind of, I think like the ghost story type of films tend to do better at the BAFTAs in terms of nominations.
Again, it was very much kind of
British, wasn't it?
Yeah, but because do you know what I mean? Because it's a ghost story rather than being like a jumpy film. I feel like we have maybe a different appreciation for ghost stories than maybe American audiences do.
I think we've got that history that American audiences don't have. I think that's something that plays 100%. Into it. I think that's probably why a ghost story works over here a little bit more, because you just got to look around at all the old buildings and things that we've got. You go to America, nothing's that old.
I remember,
it's only a few hundred years.
American history doesn't go back far at all.
No. It's like when you drive past like Woolton Hall, like a place in Nottingham. If anybody's ever drove past there, as a child, I remember driving past it at night because my grandma lives nearby it, and seeing the light shining up on it, and just imagining seeing like somebody run past the window or someone stood on the top, and it used to scare the living bejesus out of me.
Like,
yeah,
never mind a kid.
And still now, like, if I'm
me.
driving past Woolton Hall at night time, I'll always glance over and think, oh, no, I just have images of seeing like a ghostly figure in a window or on top of the building, or no, it's not on.
Wailing Mary.
Wailing Mary.
So I think the others that was the sort of film that kind of maybe sparked that interest. And looking back, when we made the copyright of the others, was one of the films that I looked at with the candlelight and everything like that. Yeah. That, you know, I want it to look like that. You know, and I think it sort of did. So I'm pretty pleased.
Oh yeah, no, you did an amazing job.
Bizarrely, the music in it, Richard, this is one for you.
Yeah.
Reminded me of the soundtrack from the Tomb Raider games.
Okay.
Just one to look out
Unique.
for. Can I do my second one? My half.
Your half.
My half. So I don't know. Shall I give it away straight off the bat, or shall I kind of let you guess by talking about it?
No,
I like
more fun that way.
Have you already spoken about this? Kind of.
Potentially, maybe to you, not to these boys.
Okay, cool.
So you've got to keep short on this one, then, I guess.
So this one was, I think I was about 16 when I saw this one. So this was the year it came out on DVD, and it was the talk of the classroom. Basically, everyone was like, "Oh, have you seen this film? It's it's disgusting. It's horrible. It's absolute filth." And then even the teachers were like, "Oh yeah, I don't think I'm going to go and see that one. I daren't go and see it." And like even the tagline of the film was daring you to go and see it. So obviously, me and Jared were like, "Yeah, boy, gonna watch this one." So he got his DVD from DVDs now, not VHS.
Cool. Yeah,
got a DVD from his brother, bought it round, and we watched it. And it's the film, I think, that not sparked my love of horror, but made me want to make horror films. Because I saw it and I thought, I could do that.
Yeah.
And it's the first Saw film.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it
Pretty
was
simply made. It's
it was that tagline, "Dare you see Saw?" And I was like, potentially. Go.
Possibly.
You know what, am I?
But yeah, it was the fact that I probably wouldn't have watched it apart from the fact
Did
that
the first poster get banned though as well?
Because it was
like
a
the
foot.
severed foot, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Which, if you think about it, is a massive plot point.
Oh yeah,
that they
ruins
gave
it.
away, but it was so enticing.
Pretty sure-
Everyone was talking about
Pretty
it.
sure my DVD cover is a chopped off foot.
Yeah, probably.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
great.
And then Saw 2's like 2 fingers. And
Yeah, but that's it. It's like literally, I only saw it because I probably Martin was like talking about, he chops his own foot off. I'm like, does he? I want to see this.
Whereas nowadays you go, come on, spoilers.
Yeah, but
it's perfect in the way that, I mean, I'm sure James Wan and Lee Waddell made that like fresh out of film school, didn't they?
they did. Yeah, they made a short, didn't they? And
Yeah.
they pitched it, and it was like, it got picked up, and they were going to get a certain amount of budget, I think, something like that. And then, but he said, no, I want to direct it.
Yeah.
And then they went, well, we're not giving you that much then.
Yeah.
So they got, I think it was $1 million, and they made it cheap,
Yeah.
but they made it effective.
If you think about it, it's all really in one room, apart
place.
from like the flashbacks.
Yeah, it cuts away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And there's I think
That's like textbook 101, like filmmaking. Is to get a film made, you set it in a room and you have something cool happen.
yeah, you have minimal
It's amazing.
cast.
Yeah.
Not
Just
a
keep
lot going
everything
on.
to a minimum, but do it well, I think
Yeah.
is the message from it, really.
But I
The
think
first one isn't even that gory either.
no, it isn't. But it's not even the gore that's like the moment in it. It's
No, there's
the end.
Yeah,
The end.
yeah.
Again, everybody who's listening to this has probably seen it, but I'm not going to
Yeah,
give
you don't
spoilers
wanna-
away. But
yeah, you
there
don't
is a
wanna
moment
drop
at the
it.
end where you go, "What the? Like, how did I not see that
Can
coming?"
beat that one.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can beat
big
that
one.
one.
That's a big one.
Yeah, so that's like 3 so far. We can probably keep them coming if you want extra work.
I think you've got quite a bit.
It's all good.
Sorry, it's probably all me.
It looked like you were going to censor it as well, Charlie. You sort of went, "What the?" I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Yeah, I was going to self-censor, but yeah.
But yeah, it's there's on the Saw DVD as well. There was a really cool making of, and that I think because it was when you see making ofs on DVDs, it was always for like the big budget stuff, and it was like I can't how. But then on that, they were like, oh yeah, because we couldn't really afford to do the car scenes moving, so we did it poor man's method. We had him in a garage, we blacked everything out and ran around it with lights and a fog machine. I was like, oh, cool. We could do that.
It was incredible. I mean, Lee Winnell just tweeted something, I'm sure, just the other day, and he was kind of celebrating the anniversary of Saw, and he was saying about like how his film professor basically told him and James that they were never going to make it. And like,
that guy feels like an idiot now.
That film alone is a massive like middle finger, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just because like it's the most successful horror franchise out there, isn't it now?
I think so.
Like
7 films? 8 films?
8 with the new one with Jigsaw.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
terrible horror fan here. I've only seen the first one.
I mean, to be honest,
stop at 3.
I literally,
Stop at 3.
I think I definitely own 2 and 3 on DVD, potentially 4, but I haven't watched them yet.
Stop at 3, go to 4 at a push, but then after that, leave it.
Okay.
But it became more about the traps. Like you were then going to see it each year, or you were then going to watch it because you just wanted to see bad things happen to bad people.
This is the thing.
Which was then like when Hostel was a thing as well, wasn't it?
That was it. It kicked off, didn't it? That whole torture porn thing. And we went to the cinema to see the 4th one. It was the first one that I could get into.
Yeah.
And so we went to see it, and sort of expecting a certain kind of audience, but there was a group of old age pensioners sat at the back. My initial thought was,
an extra ghost was added that day.
Oh my lord, Richard!
My initial thought was, they've gone into the wrong film. They don't really know what's about.
They were just embarrassed, so they just stayed.
But when we came out, they were in the lobby going, oh well, it wasn't as gory as the 3rd one, was it?
That's excellent.
Like that. This is literally going to be us.
Yeah,
when we're 80,
what happens?
We'll be like going to see the most.
You cannot judge at all.
Yeah. That's I thought.
That's
you know what? That's really cool.
Yeah.
So the others and Saw.
Yeah.
I think with a 2.
They're very different as well.
They are.
There's
like
very different.
I think
Ghost
Saw
Story
does border on kind of maybe more of your other taste with like kind of action and it borders on your other taste in terms of like kind of martial arts and action though, because I think it very much has that aesthetic to it with the camera work and the way things are done.
Yeah,
I think it's very like grungy and it's kinetic, isn't it?
Yeah,
as a film.
Yeah, it's I've literally chosen 2 things that couldn't be more different.
Yeah,
well played.
Yeah, well played, John.
Proud of you.
Who should we go for next? Who wants to share their innermost secrets? Richard.
Okay. So after following those 2, which are very, very much horror based, mine's going to sound a little bit ridiculous.
Well, mine's
also ridiculous.
But I was a lot younger. I couldn't tell you how old, and I watched it on TV, so it'd been out for a while at this point, and I remember it scaring the crap out of me, but only in certain places, because actually it's very funny, and that's kind of the whole purpose of it. Is Shaun of the Dead. That film for me is one of my all-time favourites.
It's so good.
It kicks off a lot of the sort of my love for the zombie genre. Is a really big thing for me. I've probably seen most of the zombie films out there by this point, good or bad, and I don't particularly care which. There's some terrible stuff in there.
They just throw it off the dead at the end.
Or my personal favourite was oh dear,
there is a fish tank in this film.
I was going to say, because this is not a video, Liam, you can't just reference things in the room.
That's not how it works.
Teapot.
But stuff like Zombie Wars, which was god awful, where they were basically just harvesting people and like essentially putting them in cages, and every time the cage door opened it was the same creaky sound effect. It was was awful. It was so, we should probably get everyone together to watch that because it was bad.
100%.
But that kind of, I would say, is where my sort of love of horror films came from, and I haven't seen a lot of the old classics that you guys probably have, and I'm trying to work my way through that massive backlog at this point of different horror films.
It's not necessarily about that though, is it? It's more about like the whole point of this. It's how you find your way into it.
Exactly.
Like we all get along and we all do the stuff we do because we like horror.
Yeah.
We've all approached it differently, but I 100% get Shaun of the Dead. I watched that for the first time at a sleepover with a friend, and we were way too young to watch that. And I can remember the scene where he gets pulled through the window and
Yeah.
like completely disemboweled.
Yeah, horrible.
And like I'd not seen any of the original like Dawn of the Dead or anything where I get it's all kind of been done before, but that to me truly terrified me. And I had zombie nightmares for like decades. I still do. Like the plan is, as soon as they get into my house, I'm in that loft. The loft hatch is coming down.
Right.
Food and stuff's already up there.
I'm
It's not,
gonna
but-
stop you there because that is a podcast idea.
Yeah.
Zombie
That
plan.
zombie
plans.
apocalypse plan.
Oh, I thought
Oh my
that was
God.
way too
You
much.
guys are going down.
like, no, seriously, on our third date, we actually sat down and had dinner together, didn't we? And
Yeah.
one of our, like,
Yeah, it's
make
probably
or
also
break
important
questions.
to point out that we go out.
Yes.
Liam and Charlie are a thing, so I'm sorry everyone out there who obviously heard their voices and gone, oh.
I mean, yeah, yeah. You
But
probably noticed
one
I've
of-
got a cold. Sorry.
One of our make or break questions was, do you have a zombie plan?
Yeah.
And Liam said, I have 3. And I was like, sold! Yep, that's the man for me.
I've never been more proud of you.
And I was like, I also have 3, so there we go.
Same seas.
There we
So
go.
Rich, did you see Shaun of the Dead at the cinema or were you too young?
I don't know if I was too young or I just missed it.
Yeah.
I saw it for the first time on TV.
Okay.
And I saw it from about probably halfway through.
Yeah.
So just when it was starting to kind of pick up and actually be zombie.
The thing is, it is a legitimately good zombie film.
Oh,
I think
Oh,
that's the
I
thing.
love it.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
I remember
just funny with
Yeah.
zombies.
I remember seeing the trailer for it and wanting to go to the cinema to see it, literally on the basis of, oh, it's got an arm off.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
yes, please.
So, what's the plan? Bash him in the head. That seems to work out. Why have we got to go lizards? Because I love her. All right, okay. Do something. Wait there. Hold it there. I'm coming.
I think the tagline for it, I believe, is a romantic comedy with zombies.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is perfect.
Perfect.
in
Two
my
of your
opinion.
favourite things.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've not seen Spaced or anything like that before. And in all honesty, I'm a terrible human.
I've never seen
still not
Spaced.
seen Spaced.
Oh my god. It's
And
worth a watch.
I love obviously the Cornetto trilogy, but yeah, that film was near like perfect. I mean, it's one of Tarantino's favourite films, isn't it?
It is.
And yeah.
It's just so
It's
brilliantly
crazy.
done, and there are so many small hidden things in there.
Oh yeah.
That I swear every time I watch it, I pick up something
Yes,
new.
I said this to you.
Like-
Like, I watched it again recently. It was on ITV because apparently ITV is sponsored by the Cornetto trilogy. Like it's on every week.
Hot Fuzz is that on OTV
Yeah,
too,
like
like
all
every
the
other
time.
week. Yeah, it's
and
ridiculous.
I watched Shaun of the Dead again, and I remember texting Liam something, and I was like, "Oh my god, I've only just realised that this happened to Shaun of the Dead." He was like, "What?
Well, I didn't even click to the fact that he says we're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yeah.
But obviously it's not.
Yeah.
We're coming
Yeah.
to get you, Barbara. It's we're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yeah.
But it's done so well.
Yeah.
Like, it
But it
just
was
makes
like the
sense.
Zombie Nation music when he's on the bus.
Oh my
like
God,
that was
so
something
good.
that only dawned on me after I think I must have seen it about
Zombie.
10 times, and I suddenly went,
Zombie.
"Oh my god, that song that's so clever!" Like it's so
I've not
well
picked
made.
up on that, so that's
No,
something
I
that
haven't
I will
picked up
now
on that.
watch next time.
Yeah.
And go,
Yeah.
But then, like, it is one of those things that you can watch it over and over and over again, and it's so well written, so well made, where you just go.
Genuinely
I
has
can-
some really horrific
some
moments though in
things.
there. Obviously the disemboweling.
Yeah.
But
The bit where she
the-
falls on the thing
Oh,
in the garden.
yeah, and it-
Oh no!
Yeah.
See, I love that. That
That's
was
funny.
genius.
Yeah.
The bit though, the bit with the pigeon, where
Yeah.
he picks the pigeon
Yeah.
up. It's so simple.
eats it.
No.
Oh no!
Yeah.
But it's the bit where they're making out in the background, and then you just
Yeah,
see
and
that
his head just goes
like snap
yeah.
backwards, and you're like, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah,
He's not
it
having a
is.
good night.
That's what I mean. It's a comedy, but it is also it's a genuinely good
Yeah.
zombie film.
Yeah.
But let's
Yeah,
not
treads the
forget
line
it
very
is
well.
the film that brought us Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, amongst others, beating the crap out of an old man with pool cues,
Pool cues
to Queen.
To Queen. Yeah. Yeah.
Insert clip here.
And repeated use over the years of the phrase "you've got red on you."
yeah. Oh,
Like,
God,
on
yeah.
anything, like a pen's leaked, there's fake blood on set, someone's managed to spill ketchup, you've got red on you.
I
Like,
said
every
there's no
time.
I in team, but there's an I in meat pie earlier. I
Did
literally
you actually do that? Did you do?
I actually said that at work.
Did
yeah.
you do the whole thing where you go, meat's an anagram of team? I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh my god, I'm such nerds.
I love that film, and it like taking it sort of away from the horror aspect a little bit, just the simple stuff, like we say, of things that you notice. So my favourite one is when they're playing video games in the living room, and it's like what I was just saying was all top left, reload, I'm on it, and then it comes to the scene in the bar later on, and it is word for word, the same thing.
It's genius. The script, everything. Yeah. That was like everything aligned for that film, didn't it? It could not have been better.
But then it's like you were saying as well with The Others. It's British, isn't it? It's very cast. You know, you got Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, obviously. You know, from Space, they're the two main guys. But then you've got Bill Nye's in it.
Yeah,
I always forget that he's in it, and then he turns up, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's that guy.
That's
Bill Nye.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he chased around the garden with a bit of wood. I know that film too well.
Quite heartbreaking as well, obviously, with his mum, isn't it? Like, there's.
Oh, sorry, I've just remembered the scene when they meet. Like their doppelgangers.
Yeah.
And Sherlock's mate.
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman.
Yes.
Morgan Freeman. George Foreman.
Not even close.
George Formby.
Like so many people in that film before they became like a thing.
Yeah. So good. So good. That awesome choice.
Really good.
I don't know who to go for next. Rock, paper, scissors. Do it.
Oh, come on.
Scissors.
2 scissors. Brilliant. Oh, come on.
Sake.
This is problematic now, folks. Come on. Right.
Are we like psychic, or is this just...
Oh god.
Liam, you're up. because we'll
I
do this
thought this
forever.
would be quick. Liam, talk us through it.
We're going
Absolute gore fest that will be your choice, probably.
Oh no, I know. I think I know what you're going to pick.
Oh yeah, mine's going to be absolutely ridiculous.
Go.
For the big bad fan of like horror films and our director in command of writing some of the gory shit that we do, the film choice coming up is
that's the thing.
Definitely My Little Pony.
I don't think gore is scary in the slightest, and I don't. This is going to be controversial.
Oh, that was my ankle.
I
Sorry.
don't think that there's much talent in just throwing blood at the screen and thinking it's going to get a response. That's controversy for the podcast.
It has its place.
Yeah, in zombie films, I think obviously you need it. But for me, Hostel 1, 2 and 3 were just trash. Absolutely hated them. So the film for me, I watched really, really young, saw it on TV. I actually watched it, I can remember, for the first time with my grandma. And there were moments of it where I had to hide behind a blanket and could not face it. And literally, not embarrassed to say, I probably had nightmares until probably 10, 11 about this film. And it's just not even warranted.
I'm only laughing because I know exactly what you're going to say.
So, my film that got me into horror would definitely be E.T., the extraterrestrial.
Oh, come on.
No. You laugh.
See, I thought you were going to say this earlier, which is why I almost came and
I
charged
totally
you.
agree with you because
I can't comment.
I remember
Awful, really, but it's magic.
watching that as a child.
Yeah.
I don't even know if this scene exists or if my my memory has just warped it. There's a scene or something where E.T.'s in a bush and he comes out and goes,
Yeah. No, that's funny.
Yeah.
But it isn't funny in the film. It is pure horror. It is disgusting. Even now, I have to just go.
I haven't seen it since I was a child because
I think we should all do an impression of E.T.
No, I
for
think.
this podcast,
Could you
because I think
end
that would be
it?
perfect.
Because yours is the best.
I don't think I'm at full capacity because I'm a bit ill. But if you want to be Elliot, so you need to just breathe a little bit heavy and shine a torch on me. But then it's the fact it goes. It goes away. It's literally just like a small old man, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you not think?
Yeah.
It's so sweet, but. Funny thing is it was initially supposed to be a horror movie. Because obviously, Steven Spielberg was kind of at a time where he was obviously like Gremlins, Poltergeist, all of that sort of stuff was happening. So he had free reign, I think, to do pretty much anything he wanted. And initially, I don't think it was supposed to be as happy. Because I mean, if you think about it, that and maybe Close Encounters are probably the only films I can really think of where the aliens aren't really here to completely destroy us and blow up.
Yeah, they're
information
more
out.
benevolent, weren't they?
Yeah. But I think what's really clever, and I think with Spielberg's films in general anyway, they were always family friendly, but they had those shitty pants moments, didn't they? Like, all of them had something. I mean, like, even with, like, Jaws, and it looks, like, kind of silly and stuff, but it still makes you scared to be in the water. That scene where, obviously, the kid gets it is just terrifying to me, because that guy had the balls to kill a kid. So, when you think a few years later he then makes E.T., all bets were off. That kid's going to die.
That's it, when he comes out of the bushes. The thing is, you're talking about Spielberg. At that point, he'd made Jaws.
Yeah.
He'd made Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
He'd made Duel.
Yeah.
You know, it's three films that you could very horror.
You could tell that
elements.
he liked horror.
He'd just made Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Again, generally has some horrific elements in it.
Yeah.
And then E.T.
Yeah.
You know, it's like... Or he made it Temple of Doom afterwards even, but it was like... He's always got that dark sort of edge.
Yeah.
So I get where you're coming from.
I think that's what's missing from a lot of films these days, though, now, because if you think about it, the way that you're introduced to that character... Like, by the end of the film, like, that film genuinely brings me to tears, like, every time I watch it. Like, I'm a full mess. It's, like, absolutely awful. And we obviously went to see it live in concert with the orchestra and stuff, which was magic, because, again, the music is everything in that movie. But the way that
emotional wrecks walking out of the Albert Hall.
Yeah. The way that you're introduced to that character is so twisted. Like, there's footprints. He throws the ball, then the ball throws back at him. I mean, obviously you see them leave E.T. behind at the start, but you don't really know what E.T. is. And I think, obviously they did the anniversary edition where they kind of CGI'd everything, and it looked really awful, because I think there's some magic to the fact that in some shots you could tell it was just
a
dummy on a track, just going... But it's just slowly deteriorating. But I think it's genuinely quite chilling. And then that bit where he camps out at night, because I mean, I think everyone everywhere has had that nightmare where you're asleep and you think something's at the end of your bed.
I've been there.
And it's so perfectly done that he wakes up and this thing is there, and you find out it's because he just wants to give the candy back, which for some reason I thought was Skittles for a good portion of my life. I only realised recently that they were Reese's Pieces, so again,
America.
Yeah. But yeah, and then it's like and it just like...
It's one of those films that you could very easily recut to be a horror film.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
It's like the Mary Poppins edit that's out there that turns it into a horror.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
filth.
Yeah.
But like, I remember when we went to Florida, and there's obviously the E.T. ride in Universal Studios, and I felt quite uneasy walking through the queue line. If anybody's not been, the queue line is the woods, so you walk, you have to make your way through the woods to get on the ride, and I felt a little bit unnerved. Like, you were taking in it all, you were loving it, because it's like one of your favourite films, but I was genuinely a little bit scared. Like, walking through it, I didn't like it.
That bit in the film, obviously, you kind of see the woods, when it's in the film, you see the woods from E.T.'s perspective, and even that is very similar to how you know that a serial killer's there, because you just hear E.T. going...
And like rustles in the bushes and...
And then he has the weirdest fingers. I mean, granted they glow and heal stuff, but... Come on.
Yeah, could have made him a little bit more...
Bit odd.
He is an alien, though.
Yeah.
See,
to be fair to him.
I think it's quite interesting, really.
But no alien, I think, looks like him. Sorry,
yeah, no, it's alright.
Does it? Really?
The idea of that film and you guys having that kind of almost horror experience with it when young...
Not almost.
Is full on horror experience.
Traumatised.
It's there as well, John.
Is really quite alien, if you'll pardon the pun, to me, because I only watched it for the first time last year. I think
Richard doesn't watch films.
We are.
I'm a little bit
we are
heartbroken by
probably
that.
leaning into what is potentially going to be a theme around me here, where I haven't seen a lot of the classics. But that was so. Like, I watched it and I was able to thoroughly enjoy it from the not being shit scared of an alien perspective, because.
Yeah,
You know,
I think
it's not a horror film.
It just ignites.
But when you're younger, it's
I don't know.
probably terrifying.
If I describe some of the nightmares I used to have, like
This could be fun.
I used to.
It's another great podcast idea. Nightmares we used to have.
Yep.
I
Someone
used to
writing
fully
these
have
down.
night terrors
Are we
as a
writing
kid,
these
like,
down?
It's in the pod. We've recorded this, Charlie. This is what it's called. Just so.
We're just going to take a moment for Charlie Burns.
You want to take some of that salt back?
You massive. Edit that out.
Yeah, edit that one.
With bringing everything with some of the nightmares that I used to have, like it was things that I'd slightly augment in my perception of him. So he'd be like at the end of my bed, but he'd have like sharp teeth or something.
Oh,
or,
no!
And I mean, if you think about it, if you literally just change like one little bit of that, so easily could be a goblin.
Are you okay, mate?
That's
Is that
okay.
like...
I think it explains a lot. I didn't sleep a lot as a child because of E.T.
That's fair. But the thing is, with Spielberg, is that if you think about scary moments in cinema, you think, oh, E.T. maybe looking back, actually, probably not that. But Jurassic Park and the Velociraptors,
Yeah,
that
the raptors.
scene.
But they all catch you off guard because you go into them thinking that you're watching a kids' movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you're like, shit, this is not a kids' movie.
That scene in the kitchen with the claws and the. It's like no.
It's ruined somewhat by the hand that comes out to steady the raptor, but you know, we'll gloss
Stop
over
ruining
that.
Jurassic Park.
it's the bit where, like, you then realise Samuel L. Jackson's dead because his friggin' arms.
his arm drops
there. I always remember that. I think that was probably the first time I kind of saw blood.
That's in the
like,
PG film.
Yeah.
It's a PG film. That's a severed
That's a
arm.
severed arm.
Yeah.
That's like me going, oh, saw foot chopped off.
Which
Yeah.
I found really, really weird because we get away with so much in films now, obviously with like Saw and Hostel, but then I think kids' films are so tame. Like, you don't have that.
No, they
like,
won't.
at all. And that's what made those films special, because they're the reasons why you can still watch it as a kid, because it's almost like you dare yourself to watch them again when you're old enough and when you're prepared for what's going to happen, to then be like, yeah, do you know what, I can get through this now.
What is the rating on Jurassic Park?
PG.
Is it PG?
PG.
I think if it was re-rated now, though, it would probably be maybe.
It'd be a 12, I reckon.
12.
Now.
I
think
think Lost World get a 12A. I'm sure Lost World was a little bit more kind of.
And I think they're all PGs up until the recent ones. Pretty sure. But yeah, it's
even then,
interesting.
the more recent ones. With Jurassic World, there was the bit obviously with the pterodactyl, which I think everyone kind of was a bit like, wow, okay, that's quite a lot for one person to have to endure.
But it was
there wasn't really any other bits.
But
where
it
I
was
was
sort
like,
of
this
the way
is
it was
terrifying.
done was so like outlandish and like.
Well, yeah, it was cartoon, it was CG,
It
wasn't
wasn't
it?
scary.
No.
That hand coming down and the velociraptors in the thing. It's
God.
so much more effective.
Yeah.
And yeah, I always think of obviously when you see the dinosaurs through the tanks and you're like,
Oh.
is it real? Is it not? Like, when I go to museums and stuff now, I don't trust shit in tanks. I'm like, no, that's going to come a lot. There's a tank. Yeah, no, I'm fully not going to trust that at all. Absolutely not. But going back to E.T., because this is therapy for me. What made matters worse when I was kind of dealing with the trauma of watching that film? I mean, I did, every time it was pretty much on, my mum would be like, come on, let's watch E.T., because for some reason I think she enjoyed seeing me experience it. But I can remember we went to Skegness, and on one of those grabbing machines, like the £1 like claw machines, never won one in my life, won one there, and it was an E.T. it was an E.T. in a grey hoodie, so one, doesn't make sense, because I don't think he's ever in a grey hoodie in the movie. Like, he's not in a hoodie, is he? Because he's an alien.
Was
He's
it
got the blanket.
Was it E.T. or was it like T.E.? Was it like
The non-copyrighted version.
But what was really freaky about him was the fact that he had he was like soft and plush, but his face was rigid plastic. And what used to happen is, I can always remember, I kept him in my wardrobe.
Please tell me you didn't at any point put him at the bottom of your bed, because that would have been stupid.
Well, no, this was the thing, because obviously this was when I was quite young, and my mum would still make my bed and stuff, and occasionally she did, and I was like, I know that you're effing with me right now, you're doing this. But there were occasions where I used to put it in the wardrobe, And sometimes my wardrobe door would like be open a crack or whatever, and I can remember one time I just woke up and it was just, in the crack. I could just see his one eye, and I was like, I know that you're sentient. I know that you're watching me. This is not okay.
So your child brain went, that thing is...
Oh no, this was when I was like 18.
Oh right.
No, yeah, it was awful.
But that's the sign of a good movie, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, you know how I am when I watch it now. Like, it's probably one of my favourite films ever.
There's always tears.
100%.
Charlie.
So I'm a bit like you, Jono, in this sense. I've kind of got a 1.5. So I think I might do my half first, though.
Weird.
Only because one's horror, one's very much not horror, but has a lot of horror elements in. And it's one of my favourite films. I'm going to drop some clues. You'll know what this is straight away. So yeah, it's a kids' film again, like yours, Liam, and it's actually turned into one of my favourite films. I love it. I watch it regularly. I've got vinyl of the soundtrack, an original vinyl cut of the soundtrack, and it's got David Bowie in it.
Okay.
And
I'm there.
it's Labyrinth.
Are you just there because of David Bowie, or
That's where I've got it.
That was the point at which I knew what it was. Also,
So it's Labyrinth. Now, again, it's a kids' film, but first and foremost, he is stealing baby children to take to an impossibly solvable labyrinth,
seems fine to me.
stolen by goblins, which are Jim Henson puppets, which were, to me as a child, scared the absolute bollocks out of me. Like, I could not even...
I should hope so.
That's why she's now a lady.
Is that a phrase?
This is before the
But
change.
no, they scared... It's the scene where they're waiting for Sarah to say, I wish the goblins would take you away right now. And they're all kind of in the walls or under the bed, and they're like, say the words. And that, I was like, no, didn't like that. That was not on.
Yeah.
That's
Anything
awful.
with beds.
And also, I know you, because you didn't watch Labyrinth, I think, until
we started going out.
we started going
So
out together.
I don't really rate those kind of films. I see the charm, but I think because I watched them later, like you said, BT, I didn't really get it.
But there's the scene with like the cleaners and the helping hands, which is horrendous. She's like falling down the sink, and there's like hands that make shapes. I don't know why I'm showing you because it's a podcast, but I'm miming the hands. But they're like, don't go that way, go this way, like she said, and it's horrendous. And then the cleaners, like the machine that is the cleaners, I mean, there's a little like puppet thing like chasing after it, but it's like this mechanical, like, it would dice you up into like a million pieces if it got you. Like, there are, like you were saying with E.T., there are elements of it that are terrifying. And for a long time, as a child, I was really scared of like masquerade masks because of the Masquerade Ball, because that scene I found very menacing. I mean, it's set up and it's all bright and pretty, and like he's trying to like woo her, and she's all beautiful, but there's all these really creepy people in masks, which I found really unnerving. I mean, later on as a teenager, the Masquerade Ball was like my goal wedding idea. So that kind of changed, but yeah, initially I found it really, really unnerving.
Well, this is the thing, again, I've just got the IMDb page up, and it was a U when it came, and then to think...
Yeah.
This is what I think I must have been about 4 or 5 years old, and my parents, it was on TV on like a Sunday afternoon, and my parents just sat me in front of it and went, oh look, David Bowie's in a film, Jim Henson puppets.
But that sort of like content today, you're thinking, that's not going to be a kids' film. It's sad in a way, because I think it's sort of, you need to be exposed to those sorts of stories to a certain extent when you're young. It's not harmed anybody. It's a bit of fun, but then it's got that sort of message.
Yeah. And I think you got to look back at stuff like, even going to like Disney and stuff like Snow White, the witch in that scared the shit out of me.
It's when she's going into the like trap door and she's like,
that's
you're like, oh no,
even now that's horrendous.
Yeah, not on that. But Labyrinth was my half. So I love it now. It is one of my all-time favourite films.
It's on the list.
It's
On the list.
yeah.
Richard, you've got a lot on your
Yeah,
list.
there's a big
I will
list.
lend it to you. It's amazing. You'll probably have the same reaction you had to ET. You'll be a bit like,
yeah, it was alright.
But yeah, it's one of my favourites. The
Sorry,
other
what?
one,
It's triggered.
just don't tell me if you hate it, because if you hate it, we can't be friends anymore. The other one is, funnily enough, my favourite horror film, which I started talking about at the start of the podcast, which is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Please, God.
This is God.
I think the main reason that this film got me into horror so much, well, there's two reasons. One is Nancy, because I think I watched Nightmare on Elm Street when I was a teenager, and I started off like watching things where women were portrayed to be these people that weren't very clever and would go into dark rooms and, you know, like flail about and not do very much. And I think Nancy was
nothing
like
we create.
Nancy was the first final girl I watched where she was like badass, resourceful, like read a book on traps and booby traps and like pancake stairs, which was just brilliant, like stairs made of pancake mixed with holes in them. Like great
Trivia queen.
queen there. But yeah, like she was badass, and I think like as an actress I was like yes, like because I think I must have been about 13-14 when I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, and that was when I was kind of deciding yes, acting is something I definitely want to pursue. And growing into a massive horror fan, Nancy was the kind of character that I always dreamt of playing one day. So I kind of fell in love with like final girls like Nancy.
What was it about it that scared you?
The thing about it that scared me was, funnily enough, it was pre-watching Nightmare on Elm Street. There used to be a series on Channel 4 called like the 100 Greatest or whatever, and it was the 100 greatest. It was the 100 greatest horror films, and I think what are you laughing at?
It's Liam's salty. Yeah, seen that show. Love it.
Such a salty bitch.
Yes, 100 Greatest Burr. Yeah.
So it was the 100 greatest horror movies, and it went through like some like amazingly god awful films, but horrendously scary films, and I think Nightmare on Elm Street was in the top 10. And there was a like a talking head, I can't remember who it was, but this guy said the scariest thing about Freddy Krueger is he comes in your dreams and you have to sleep.
Yeah.
You cannot go to Camp Crystal Lake, you'll escape Jason. You can outrun Michael Myers. You cannot go to the haunted house in the country and not be like surrounded by ghosts. But like it or not, you will have to sleep. Your body will make you sleep. So it is inevitable that Freddy Krueger will get you. And I sat there about 12 years old, saw that, and I went,
no.
ah! And then I watched the film, and yeah, I had a traumatic like experience with it. And then I don't know why, but it made me thinking about like windows and doors. Like in the middle of a heat wave in July, every door, every window in my house had to be locked at night, and I was terrified to the point of like not sleeping. And again, just because it scared me so much, that it was that Vox Pop bloke on that documentary that was like, Freddy Krueger will get you if you sleep. And then hearing that first and then watching the film, I was like, no.
See, it's funny you should say it, because one of my friends, this was back in junior school, so I was probably about 10, and he'd claimed that he'd seen this film, Nightmare on Elm Street, and I don't even know if he had, but he was like, oh, you don't want to go into your boiler room, Freddy will get you. And I'm thinking, looking back, he probably hadn't seen the film, he'd just heard of Freddy Krueger, knew there was something to do with the boiler room in there. And at this point, I hadn't seen the film, but our house has got like a room that has the boiler in it.
Yeah.
And I was terrified of going anywhere near that.
Yeah.
Well,
Freddy Krueger's definitely in the area.
Can I just say, that's the thing I felt.
hiding
boiler,
among the towels.
I would just like to say our boiler in my parents' house was in my bedroom.
Oh, that's the
So
worst.
Well, the
being
only
absolutely
yeah.
terrified of Freddy Krueger, boiler rooms,
That's not
couldn't
gonna help. He's
sleep.
got easy access
It was
when you're asleep. That's
yeah, and I was
like-
just honestly no.
I'm
we
here.
take the mic now, but honestly, I was scared that in the middle of the night I'd just hear like the door would open and then I'd just say.
Oh, the scene where he's got his hands stretched.
Liam laughs at me for this, but honestly, the scene where Tina's in the alleyway and he's like, Tina, and then his arms go,
I get like
scares them.
I get what
Jesus out of
they were
me.
trying to do, because I think, you know, when you think about things that are in your nightmares, they just don't make sense,
they're
but they
ridiculous.
terrify you. So I get where they were going with it, but
I mean,
I
it's-
find it quite funny.
It's very
But
hokey and it's
I didn't
very
know if it was supposed to
80s.
be.
Yeah.
But I think
the-
that's another thing. I mean, I think it goes later in all the sequels. It does have its dark comedy moments.
Oh, he was very much like one line.
But like
wasn't he?
it was even after that, like that whole sequence with Tina's like the outstretched arms and like where he comes from like the side of like the washing line post and like he's not there and then suddenly he's there and he chops off his fingers and then she pulls off his and he was relentless and
he looks
that
very
really
different as well,
scared
didn't
me.
he, from anything you'd really kind of seen. If you think about
Yeah.
the other kind of classic killers,
It was Man in
they're all
Masks.
like 7
Yeah.
foot stupid, and they're very masculine looking. Whereas he kind of looks like a dirty old man, and he's supposed to. And I think that's what was kind of scary, because he was going after like teenagers.
So I think the thing for me is the fact that, you know, everyone has to sleep, as you mentioned earlier, so he is going to get you in your dreams. But it's the thought that actually sleeping, and it kind of comes a little bit back to Paranormal Activity and stuff, that is when you're at your most vulnerable
Yeah.
to with by these things.
Yeah.
And that is horrible when you think about it. And it has now become very, very iconic.
Yeah.
But like, I know it's hokey, I know it's very 80s and people slam the absolute shit out of Nightmare on Elm Street, but just that idea of preying on people when they're at their most vulnerable, when they're their most peaceful, at sleep, which is inevitable because you have to sleep,
Yeah, you've got no
is
choice.
genius.
It's a heck of a concept,
It's
isn't it?
genius. And that was the thing that really scared me. And like I said before, like Nancy has really inspired me as like a horror actress, just because she wasn't that helpless, flailing bimbo like final girl that I'd seen in other horror films I'd watched as a teenager. Like, she was the first one, I think, that I'd been exposed to where she was like, no, I'm going to get this bastard. I will find a way to get you. And she's clever. She's really clever. So that inspired me to kind of want a role like Nancy.
It's interesting as well that you're the first person to choose a horror film that has a classic horror villain as the person, you know, as the film that got you into horror.
Yeah.
I mean, E.T.'s a classic character, but he's not a horror
but-
character.
yeah.
Shaun of the Dead, it's a great film, but you wouldn't, they're not iconic horror characters in the sense that they spawned a franchise. I mean, I guess Jigsaw, Tobin Bell, you know, a little bit, but not in the same league
I
as
think
Freddy.
I was toying with the idea of like a few different films. I think like Signs came up at one point, and I was like, oh, I might talk about Signs. But Nightmare on Elm Street for me is, when people say, what's your favourite horror film? Nightmare on Elm Street. What's your favourite final girl? Nancy. What's the first film that scared you? Nightmare on Elm Street. And I think that was why I picked it as the film that stands out to me as the one that really got me into horror, was because it was genuinely the first film that really, really frightened me. Really frightened me.
And it's the film that's responsible for one of the most popular pub quiz questions ever.
Oh, hit us with it.
Which actor got his
Johnny
big break?
Depp.
There you go. You see, yeah, people forget Johnny Depp, isn't it?
Soz,
but
don't.
nailed it.
Don't test my Nightmare on Elm Street knowledge.
It also spawned probably one of my greatest things, and just looking at you now in your Mr. Poopy Butthole t-shirt, just Scary Terry from Rick and Morty is fantastic.
That's
and
when
the
you
fact
know
it's
you-
one whole spoof.
Yeah, so when you know
Well, yeah.
you've made it as
Yeah.
a character, doesn't it?
Well, when you think about like that, you know, we spoke about how it kind of disintegrated into more hokey things. There was like a portion of time where he was then being featured in like rap videos. He was on lunchboxes. Like, he's the only like horror villain
Kids'
who's
lunchboxes.
come into that
I
like mainstream.
genuinely think that had I still been at like lunchbox carrying age,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I would have wanted a Nightmare on Elm Street lunchbox.
I might just go on eBay after this. Let's be honest.
I think we actually found some on Universal
Any
City
kind,
Walk, and I very nearly bought one.
Any
but-
kind of memorabilia for you, I think, is a big thing.
Like, yeah, I'm a hoarder.
Big fan as well of the Slash Street Boys video that you sent us that time.
God.
I was
Oh, yes.
absolutely
So
creasing
good.
at that.
I think there's about 2 or 3 of those now.
There's some really good ones in there.
So good. I think it's either Leatherface or Michael just has the most amazing voice. And I'm just like, yes, you can sing.
Right, so guys, I've just checked the time and we have run at about an hour there talking about those films. So I'm thinking, if it's all right with you guys, that we sort of split this podcast right here and we leave the awards talk for the next episode.
Sounds good to
Yeah.
me.
Sound good?
Sounds like
Yeah.
a plan.
Cool beans. So I know, Liam, you wanted to have a quick chat about X, the promo that we've just put together for Super Freak Media to celebrate 10 years.
Yeah, so I mean, February, obviously this is coming out in March now, but February 16th we celebrated 10 years online, and it's been a crazy journey so far. Obviously we spoke about some of our favourite horror films, but like that was a huge celebration of some of our favourite characters, favourite moments over the last decade. We got to see some familiar faces and allude to some future projects in there as well. So if you want to check that out, that'll be on our YouTube channel. If you love 80s nostalgia, then you're going to love that short, and everyone here was involved in some way as well, so it was super special. I'd love for you guys to check it out. But yeah, like, please, I don't know what you say.
You said something about Wednesdays as well. You Women in Horror Wednesdays.
Oh yeah, so I sound awful at plugging things, don't I?
No, that's
that's
my
good.
brainchild.
Yeah. So if you follow us on Instagram and occasionally Twitter, we do post them on there. We've started a hashtag, and we've been posting since the start of the year. Women in Horror Wednesdays hashtag WIHM. No, WIHW.
No,
Apparently can't use the alphabet. Jeez. Yeah, so every week we post one of our favourite horror characters. It can be a final girl, it can be the antagonist, protagonist, anything. Just a female presence in a horror movie that's really inspired us. We post that on our Instagram stories each week, so please check that out and please follow us, because we're posting new content every single day.
Perfect. Cool. So thanks for listening, guys. I'm going to sign off there. Just remember, check us out on Facebook. We've got a website, we've got YouTube going on. All the links will be in the description of the podcast. Mm-hmm. So please, keep it creepy. See you on the other side. Perfect. Oh dear.
Ghosties.
Cool. And we're rolling.
Rolling.
Literally, suddenly got nervous.
Yep.
This is amazing.
For a week first.
No, you cannot go for a wee.
I genuinely
It was funny
wanted
how,
to
like,
burp as soon
when-
as you press like record. I was like,
We come in and we just talk normally, and
No.
we had like fire, and then as soon as it's like and rolling, it's like